Hey, so this is Ani Imagination. Welcome to the Ethical Asshole, and I am your host, the Salty Bitch. I'm so excited about this. So I have my list of these are my questions for my new research. So these are my questions. Was Atlantis Roman? Okay. The next question I'm asking is Darius. Is there a connection between Darius and Rome? And if so, then what is the connection? So I'm like, well, I'm going to go ahead and do this video. And this is my summation. This is basically what's going on. We all know we live in a matrix. And Rome built it. Rome built it. Absolutely. Now, I'm not going to get into it here because I literally have an entire course that breaks down the entire chronological events from archaeology, science, all of it to show you. Here's the timeline. Here is the restored timeline without any, here's the restored timeline. Now, where I give my opinion, I do a separate little thing and I say, this is my conclusion. And then at the very bottom, I have like a whole, here's all of the news sources that are coming through with other people discovering this and ABC. We've got the Vatican going, oh yeah, we totally doctored the Christian story. We've got, okay, that's not quite how it happened, but it's there. You can watch it yourself. So I'm like looking for all this stuff. And then we have a new evidence in the 125 BCE of a thing. What's it called? I can't think what it's called. I cannot think of what it's called. Of a city being are going against or fighting Rome. Now we know, if you are a Romanologist, you know that if you went against Rome, it was a death sentence. So that's not news. So I'm sitting here looking at now. There's a lot of legend. There's legend going on, and I'm just gonna put this massive spotlight right on Darius, and I want to tell you why. King Darius, we were talking about Darius the Great, who is actually Darius the liar. We have archaeological evidence that this man lied. Like the dying words of Smerdis Gautama the Magi is, Darius lied. Like a dude in fucking intense, right? And in addition to, you got this guy going, Darius lied. I'm going to set that over there. Archaeological evidence of this. I'm sitting down. If you look at the Bible, you get Nebuchadnezzar II, and then you get Darius, and then you get Cyrus the Great. Now let's show you what's really in history. Nebuchadnezzar, Cyrus's son, Sebrissus, Gautama, Darius. The Bible version, history. So I'm going, clearly this has been doctored. Now, no matter what anyone else may tell you, historically, the oldest copy of this book of the Bible is literally the 3rd century BCE, which means this book is younger than Plato and Pythagoras, okay? So now I got to clarify this. So first of all, there's two things to clarify. Is the dates are 500 BCE up to first. It's a span. The way carbon dating works, it's not a particular year. They've been able to pin it between BCE to the 1st century BCE. That's really important. So it's anywhere from 500 to 100 BCE. It's somewhere in that space. Now, Darius lived 522 BCE to 486 BCE. So King Darius lived around the same time that all of the biblical stuff was written. We're going to just set that down over there. Now, I have studied forensic science and criminal law for a long time. You need a few things in order for there to be a crime. One, you need there to be a crime that actually took place. B, you need a motive. We all know this from all those NCI shows we watched. You need a motive. And 3, you need a body. Well, this is ancient history, literally. So the the body is kind of like more of a so-and-so killed so-and-so on this date, so, okay, all right. And we're talking about not a murder crime. We are talking about, that's what I do. I investigate war crimes. That's really what I do for a living. I investigate ancient war crimes. That's right. I'm an ancient war crime investigator. That's my name. I'm an ancient war crime investigator. That's what I do, because I got my criminal psychology over here, and I've got my ancient history over here, and I'm an archaeologist for wisdom, and I'm going, oh, that's right. That's exactly what's going on. I am a ancient war crime investigator. That's right. And I smell something fucking fishy going on. So I'm sitting here going, all right, let me just take a look here. And I'm asking the question, is there a connection between Darius and Rome? Now, we know the oldest form of the Roman Empire we have is 750 something, literally 753, I believe the word is, and it's BCE. And this is a very specific thing that came up in the Roman Forum with the word rex, which means literally Roman king. Well, I don't believe that, because rex is Greek for king. And that was documented very well in history. And now I'm looking at that going, why would they think that that is evidence that the Roman Empire existed when all it was an inscription on the Roman Empire, the Roman Forum, that said king? That is not evidence. Who is doing this shit? So I'm going to have to go back on that. So now I'm bringing into question, did the Roman Empire actually exist, or did the Roman kingdoms actually exist around the 753 like they're claiming? Now, yes, we have an inscription on the Roman Forum in 753. Now, if they carbon dated the Roman Forum back to 753, what is the evidence that is Roman? You see where I'm going with this? So I'm just going to put a nice little question mark around this, because I have to do more research on that, because I'm going, I feel something icky. That doesn't feel logically pure. So I'm just going to set that over there. Now, let's look over here. Darius. So I look up Darius and I read this line and I went, so I got to read this line to you. So you can go, too. All right, ready? Darius. The new king, Darius, met with rebellions throughout the empire, but quelled each of them. A major event in Darius's life was his expedition to subjugate Greece and punish Athens and Eretria for their participation in the Ionian revolt. That's a motive! We got a motive! I'm going, we got a motive! Oh, that's a big deal in investigative law. We've got a motive. Darius had a motive. Oh, this is a big deal. So now I'm sitting here going, wait, whoa. So he had an agenda against Athens? Oh, watch this. Rome destroyed Athens. Okay, that was 86 BCE, so that's definitely not him. And that's okay. That's okay. All right, so we can scratch that concept out. But this is interesting. All right. So I'm loving this. I'm loving everything about this. A motive. I'm like, he has got a serious agenda here. For their participation in the see, now I got to look up the Ionian revolt. Now, Ionian, okay, so Ionian, I have to tell you guys what Ionian is. Ionian is Ionic. It's a type of architecture. Well, it is a type of people. There was Dorians, there was Corinthians. We all know about the Corinthians. And then there was the Dorians. So you had the Dorians, the Corinthians, and then you had the Ionians. Now, our three pillars, literal pillars, not metaphorical, like the pillars of self-esteem. No, these are the literal ones, okay? In architecture, we have three types of pillars. We have the Corinthian pillar, we have the Doric pillar, and we have the Corinth pillar. And each one of them had their own style based upon their own type of culture. So the Ionian revolt is from the Ionians, who are where the Ionic pillars come from. That's useless information that you really don't need to know, but because I love architecture so much, I just had to throw it in there. All right, so going back to this thing. The cities of Ionia had been conquered by Persia around 540 BC, and thereafter were ruled by native tyrants nominated by the Persian satrap in Sardis. In 499 BC, the tyrant of Miletus and Aristogoras launched a joint expedition within the Persian satrap Artaphernus to conquer Naxos. In an attempt to bolster his position, the mission was a debacle. Debacle. The mission, see, this is the problem when you do all of your living and growing in books. You don't know how to pronounce words proper. You have to go online and you got to look it up, and then they give you the option. Do you want to do the British or the American? Well, which one sounds better? Probably the British. So I look at them both, I listen, and I'm like, oh, that one sounds gross. I'm going to go with this one. And that's why you get things like laboratory versus laboratory, because laboratory sounds so much better. And then people hear me and they're like, what accent is this? Oh, dude. This is called the abstract. Yeah, that's right. Totally. My accent is the abstract. The mission was a debacle. What is this word? Gotta pronounce it. And sensing his imminent removal as a tyrant, Aristogoras chose to incite the whole of Ionia into rebellion against the Persian king Darius the Great, who I like to call Darius the Liar. This is fascinating. I'm just so glad to have there a motive. A motive changes everything. It goes from an hypothesis to boom, oh, we got a motive. This is a big deal. This is a really, really big deal. This is a very big deal. So what this means, it basically builds his character. We now have more of a psychological profile that we can now understand Darius. So this is how you do psychological profiling on people. This is how it's done. You basically collect a whole lot of data. Now, I love doing King Solomon because the dude was fiction. So far, there's been zero evidence of this dude existing. So, but I like to do King Solomon. King Solomon's great. So King Sol, I really don't anymore because now I know he's fiction. And I'm like, well, someone just made him up. Until I get further evidence, someone just made him up. But basically, and this is really interesting, because he starts off one way, and then he starts to curve this way. And then he gets really, 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 really wise. And then he starts to worship all of the gods and goddesses of other religions. And I'm going, dude, at the peak of his wisdom, he betrays the Abrahamic God, which means at the peak of his wisdom, he figured out that God is shit. So Solomon himself, this is in the Bible, people, Solomon himself betrays God and says, well, fuck you. I'm wise now, so I know what full of shit you are. Solomon behaved this way. It's not written in the words. It's in his behavior. And we all know that actions speak louder than words. So now I'm looking at Solomon from their book. Like, this is in the Bible. This is in the Bible, people. You can read this shit. And God's like, dude, you totally betrayed me. I'm gonna punish you. I'm gonna leave you alone and go after your son, and I'm gonna break your kingdom into 10 parts. I'm showing you. So, and that's exactly what he did. And that was done in the book of Kings, First Kings. And then this is great, like 150, 200 pages later. This is great. This is the genius of the Bible with its lineage. This is where it's great. So now we're in the book of Daniel, in the writing of the wall. And God, the same God who punished Solomon by dividing his kingdom into 10 parts, shows up and says, your kingdom is divided. I'm giving this to the Persians and the Medes. There is no archaeological evidence that the Medes existed, but Darius the Mede, Darius the Great, suddenly shows up and says, I have Gibbs. Who the fuck are you? And who the fuck are these Medians? Because there's no median. Like, there's no archaeological evidence that the Medes exist. The only evidence we have of anyone called the Mede is literally written in the Bible in between 500 BCE and the 1st century BCE. So we're just looking at him going, who the fuck are you and where did you come from? It looks like Darius wrote it in. This is called nano-literature of Mesopotamia. It's a real thing. You can look it up. Where Darius said, oh, what's this? I'm writing my own books. And then Darius the Mede showed up. Yeah, that's right. And I totally kicked ass. And I'm just going to put myself here between Nebuchadnezzar II and Cyrus the Great, who really did exist. But Nebuchadnezzar's not his real name. His real name, because they changed his name. His real name, Nebuchadnezzar. So I have to say, the word Nebuchadnezzar is one I was like my first word that I ever fell in love with when I was a kid. I remember being in church and I heard this name. Okay, his real name is Nabu Kudiri Usur. Oh, that's so much prettier, right? Nubul Kudiri Usur. That is his real name. That is what he was actually called during that time period. So his name was Nabu. I like that so much more. Nabu Kuduri Usur. Now, I used to do, one of the things that I studied was the naming in Persian culture. And it is one of the most beautiful things. They have like, their naming is just so beautiful. I love how they do it. So yes, Nubu Kuduri Usur. That is his real name. So it's really interesting to see how like everything just kind of like got shifted around and changed. Yeah, see, and I'm looking now at it going, oh yeah, so that's all Persian. That's all Persian. That's yeah, definitely. Oh, fuck, definitely, yes. So one of my favorite things to study is the archaeology of clothing, the history of clothes. Oh yeah, it's a thing. The history of clothes. Clothing is architecture. It really is. Clothing is architecture. If you study architecture and you study clothes, I don't think anyone in the world has ever studied these two things except for me, but let's go with this. If you study architecture and you study clothes, they are the same thing. Okay? They are the same fucking thing. They are the same fucking thing. Like clothing is architecture, except you wear it. You wear it. You wear the architecture. It's architecture that you wear. That's the difference. And I'm sitting here going, wow, it really looks the same thing. I cannot look at a person's clothes and not look at their buildings and go, wow, that's the same shit. And their hats, this is the best thing. Their hats match their buildings. Does anyone else notice this? No, probably not, because no one studied architecture and clothing. But you need to study fashion and ancient fashion, not just fashion. You got to study ancient fashion. And one of my favorite things is when you look at the tops of buildings and then you look at people's hats and they match. It's really fucking cool. It really is. And I'm like, fascinating. So when I sit down and I look at ancient paintings, which is why you also need to study ancient art, you just get this. Now, this is really important because this happens a lot. This happens a lot, people. I'm going to teach you a story. Once upon a time, I was watching a show called Stranger Things. And my daughter says to me, is this really what the 80s was like? Kinda, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it basically took all the loudest parts of the 80s and put it into one show, but yeah. 2 weeks later, we were watching Never Ending Story. And I said, that's what the 80s looked like. And she went, and I went, yeah, that's right. That's right. 80s, what they think the 80s look like. Now, this is a thing. We've seen this in television. Come on, guys, let's do it. Goonies. You want to know what the 80s look like? Watch Goonies. That's the 80s. Oh, yeah, that's the 80s. Goonies. Oh, that's the 80s. I remember watching Goonies. I am a Goonie. I remember watching Goonies, and I remember going, I am a Goonie. Oh, you have no idea how much that deeply penetrates me. Yes, I am a Goonie, and I don't know if the word impenetrate is the right word or not. I will look it up later, but I am a Goonie. Okay, so I'm sitting here looking at this going, yes, Goonies. So I grew up like, yeah, their house is as disgusting as ours. Yeah, they got shit all over the place. Okay, they were in the middle of a move, but yeah, Goonies. It's the 80s. Everyone's got their bicycles. The bicycles were the thing. And then I remember watching E.T. E.T. is also the 80s. And I'm like, yeah, that's what we thought scientists looked like in the 80s, because no one had actually seen a scientist in the 80s. So we just had a lot of movies that depicted what we thought scientists looked like in the 80s because they were secreted away in their labs and we had no idea. And it was the Cold War and everything was hell. And we were always scared and we were supporting all the Republican stuff at that time going, oh, these are dark days indeed. Yeah, I remember that. That was the 80s. So then, this is great. The 80s really were dark days. It was the Lord of the Flies of our generation. So that was the 80s. And then we're watching Stranger Things. And I'll tell you, we got to do this. Marketing. You want to know good marketing. I'm going to tell you good marketing. Good marketing is this. You know what we need to do? Let's play off of the Gen X's nostalgia and let's give them Stranger Things, which will accommodate the newer generations while also appeasing the nostalgia of the Gen X's. Now, the Gen X's are the ones with the money. So we're going to make sure this appeases to the marketing nostalgia of the children of Gen X. And while we're doing Gen X nostalgia, this is a dirty trick that they played against us. I really am not pleased with this. We're going to do nostalgia Gen X marketing based off of the stories of the new generation. And that's how mother and child is going to connect. That's right. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to play off of that nostalgia with Beetlejuice. That's right. Let's get Winona Ryder in on this. Oh, yeah. This is manipulation. This is manipulation. So they get Winona Ryder in on it. I love Winona Ryder. And they're sitting here like, oh, yeah, here we go. Winona Ryder. But you know what else Gen X loved? You know what else Gen X loved? Lord of the Rings. So let's throw Samwise Gamgee in there. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, this is manipulation. I didn't stand a chance against Stranger Things. They used my childhood against me. That's right. That's right. This is Stranger Things, guys. This is Stranger, and we fell for it. So I'm that person who went to the store to buy Stranger Things, and I get this VHS with this little thing, and I'm going, wow! It says, please be kind, rewind. I was so happy, but there were two of them, and I didn't know the difference because I was hyped up on nostalgia juice. So I bought them both. And then I got home and realized one was HD and one was Blu-ray, and that was the difference. And I don't care because they're both different. Now they're collectibles because I have a thing for Stranger Things because they used my nostalgia juice against me. So that is how you weaponize nostalgia juice. That all being said, I have a point. Taking nostalgia juice aside, I'm sitting here now looking at artwork that was written in the 5th century, painted in the 5th century. And I'm looking at 5th century people depicting what they think the 1st century looked like. And then I'm looking at 15th century art and what they think 10th century looked like. And I'm looking at 18th century art, watching what they think 3rd century BCE looked like. I got 3 data points. And then I'm looking at Stranger Things, showing me what they think the 80s look like. And I know how to use math. That's going to go on a mug. I know how to use math. That makes me dangerous. So I'm looking at this now going, they're delusional. They have no idea what the past fucking looked like. Ironically, our only information about the past is about people writing about the past. You know what I call this? The telephone game. So we are relying all of our knowledge on the telephone game, except we have data points and math to show us exactly the calculated trajectory of change over data point A to Z when people try and claim that they know what a different time period looks like. And I'm going to diagnose this bullshit. Because look at Stranger Things. And then look at Goonies. Okay, so aside from kids saving the world on bicycles, are there any similarities in their clothes? There's lots of clothes. They got the clothes right in some places. But there's a lot of things that they were just off on. Like, do you remember when Elle went to the mall? Okay, I'm going to tell you about that because that was really just grated on me. Mall rats. We all know the episode Mall Rats. I'm sitting here watching it and I'm doing this. I wasn't allowed to go to the mall. I wanted to be a mall rat. My parents wouldn't let me be a mall rat. I remember having wars. I want to go to the mall. The mall's out. I want to go to the mall. No, you can't go to the mall. Why? Okay, it was a 45-minute drive, but I don't care. I want to get my bicycle. I'm gonna get my bicycle and I'm going to go to the mall. I wanted to be a mall rat. I was not allowed to be a mall rat. And then all the kids would go to school. Oh, I got to the mall. Did you go to the mall? I'm going to go to the opera house. That's a library. I did. I had an opera house that was a library. So I said, fuck you all. I'm going to the opera house. That's a library. So I did. I have my own opera house as a library. The gods blessed me in my insanity. So I had an opera house that was a library. That's what I had. I loved my opera house that was a library. I loved it so much. It was all mine. So let me tell you about my opera house that was a library. It was the only library in town. It was actually like the only library in an entire 100 radius because everyone was ignorant. And it had one patron, me. So I would go into this library. I think the US government paid for it. So thank you, Sam. And I walked into the library, which was actually an ancient opera house. Okay, it was from the 1800s that no one used anymore because everyone there was just an ignorant fuck, which is okay. No, it wasn't, but it's okay. So I'm like, so I see this as an opera house because it said opera house. And they're like, yeah, it ran down like back in the 1920s when opera fell out of use in this area and it's never been opened. What's upstairs? What's upstairs? Oh, that's the theater room and the stage and the audience. It's where we keep the ancient books. Ancient books? You keep ancient books upstairs in the opera house? This is my childhood. You keep ancient books in the upstairs? Yeah. Can I look at it? Sure. That is when I began my new hobby. My new hobby was, I'm going to find the oldest books I can find in this location. They're all in Latin. So I had to learn how to read Latin. So I'm going, all right, I did it. So I got a whole lot of books from the 1800s, the 1400s, and the 1600s, and the 1500s. A lot of books. And I just went through and I'm like, all right, 1800s. So I started collecting. And then I started to notice a trend. And I'm like, all right, fascinating. All right. And then I got back to literally the 1400s. And then it all was stuff. And that's when I got to see books written in the 14 and the 15 and the 1600s. And their book covers were different. They had cushions on their book cover. So they had foam that lined the inside. And oh my God, I found so many beautiful things. And then I found many, many Bibles. And I took them all home with me, but not before I set them in my little corner. And then I stood on stage and I sang solo for 3 hours. This became my hobby because I wanted to be a mall rat. And my parents said, no, you can't be a mall rat. So that's really what the 80s were like. There wasn't, everyone wanted to be a mall rat, but you couldn't be. Not everyone was allowed to be a mall rat. Now, in addition to that, those really awesome, amazing, bright clothes that they wore, you know who wore those? No one actually wore those. Who wore those were all the fucking celebrities. That's who wore those. That's who wore those. Punky Brewster, who I wasn't even allowed to watch. She is the one who got to wear the really awesome loud clothes that Elle wore. No one actually dressed like that in the 80s. We got to wear the flash dancing things over the side with our bangles and our scrunchies. That's what we got. Okay, that's what we got. What we got was t-shirts and those ugly white striped socks. The striped socks were true. You remember the stripe? We got the nasty t-shirts with a little, that's what we got, okay? Meanwhile, the celebrities are wearing these really awesome, amazing, geometric, abstract art for clothes. Only the celebrities did that. Bette Midler had like geometry in her closet. She'd do a movie and it'd be this weird ass geometric thing with bright yellow with black spots. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. So she, because she was a celebrity, so only the celebrities got to wear that shit. Paula Abdul got to wear that fucking shit. We all got to sit there and go, why can't I dress like Paula Abdul? Like, that's the truth of it. So when Elle is walking around wearing these really fucking amazing clothes, that is not what you could get. Only like the celebrities could get that shit. The rest of us, yeah, clothes have not changed really much. So all we could do was copy their hairstyle. So we did the hair. And this is funny. So my daughter's watching it and she's like, is that really what the hair looks like? I pull up my phone. I look up my husband, Freddie Mercury. And I show her Queen. And she goes, oh, that's what hair looked like. That's not on Stranger Things. So, oh, I love Stranger Things. It's just not fair what they did to us. Nostalgia juice. So there it is. There it is. That's the truth of it. So when somebody shows you shit and says, yeah, this is what it looked like, you're lying. You're telling me the telephone game. This is called nano-literature of Mesopotamia. It's called bullshit. It's the science of bullshit. I remember this one painting. It's from the 18th century, and it's called The Rape of the Spying Women. It's literally a very famous painting. And it's this really intricate detail of all these women being raped. Well, Romulus stands there in a toga. That's right, a toga. Pointing all over the place. Make sure you rape that woman. That's literally what this painting looks like. It's horrible, but that's what the painting looks like. Make sure you rape that woman. Get that one over there. Oh, that's it. Freeze. And then they painted it. And that's what you look like. Is make sure you rape that one over there. And there's a child, an infant laying on the ground screaming. And this is like, literally, it's one of the most famous. It was painted in the 18th century. And so you get somebody from the 18th century trying to depict, yeah, this is what it looked like. You really think that's what it looked like? Pretty sure it didn't look like that. Pretty sure there's a whole lot more bloodshed than that, but okay. So, just saying. Just saying. So, based off of all of this, looking at what people think the past looks like, it's the biggest it's the biggest delusion we tell ourselves. Ooh, that's deep shit. Aren't I getting into deep shit today? What we tell ourselves the past is the biggest bunch of bullshit, and it's the delusion, is what really happened in the past. And we already have to do whatever we have to do to put our story back together for our own trauma. That is for you to work out. But when you're not even there and you are trying to tell other people what you think happened, and this is where I'm going, yeah, how about if the people who do that job are people who know how to do math, know how to sit down and accumulate actual evidence to say, this is not valid evidence. And also psychology, real psychology. So they can sit down and say, yeah, that's not psychologically profiled properly. That doesn't even make fucking sense because that doesn't align to the subconscious mind. So I'm looking at all of this, and I'm going to be blunt. This is what I noticed in all of my research lately, and I mean in the last week, is Darius. We know he's a liar because this dude on his dying deathbed made a point of going, he lied. That's fucking intense shit. I'm going, Smurtus, dude. And here's the other thing. I want to talk about Gautama. Gautama, so if you don't know, if you're like new to the show, Gautama Smerdis is the third son of Cyrus the Great. And he was a magi. Now, what that means is he took an ethical vow for truth and wisdom. They don't lie. It would literally violate their entire being. And Cyrus the Great, his father, was one of the greatest Zoroastrians in the world who trained Confucius and Pythagoras. Like, this dude did a campaign to say, wisdom is the greatest achievement we have. Everyone needs this knowledge. Go tell everybody. So Cyrus the Great ran a campaign to spread knowledge, wisdom, ethics, and good throughout the entire fucking world. And he did. I'm going to say again, they taught Confucius and they taught Pythagoras, who created philosophy, which is why philosophers know this shit. And when you study Zoroastrian and Christianity, Christ's shit, not the other stuff, it is 100% a match to Zoroastrian. And when you study Buddhism and Confucianism, which, by the way, came long after Zoroastrian, which was around the same time, exactly the same time as Cyrus the Great, you realize, oh shit, this is like the origin religion of all. It then later fed Hinduism and developed that one as well. And it was all ancient Persian. And it spread. It became Taoism, all of the Eastern holistic stuff. All of it came down to the origin of Zoroaster, spread by Cyrus the Great. Now we're going to take a step back for a minute. He had 3 sons, and one of his sons was like Siberius, I can't remember his name. And his other son was Gautama. Now, Gautama was a magi. You know, gift of the magi, the 3 wise men, those guys. So if you are, magi is 3 stages above philosopher. So you have apprentice, tradesman, master, philosopher, sage, magi, and then you have genii. So if you're a magi, you've been through like knowledge. His son was a magi. It's like the highest order of knowledge and wisdom that there is. This guy made King Solomon look like an asshole because Solomon wasn't a magi. That's the level we're talking. Solomon was borderline sage. Gautama was a magi. Gautama could have taught Solomon a thing or two about wisdom. We're talking really fucking amazing. And this is the man that Darius killed, claiming that he was an imposter, right after he took the throne, slaughtered the line, and then spread nasty rumors. Now, when you look at what else Darius did, aside from doctoring the Bible, putting himself in the middle of something that's chronologically 200 years before his own existence, and then how he launched one of the nastiest campaigns. Why the fuck we're calling this man great is beyond me. He was Darius the liar. So when you have a magi who on his dying bed, after he's been killed, wounded, and he's dying, and he finds a rock, a wall to carve one last message before his death. He lied. I am Gautama, son of Cyrus. I am a magi. Oh, dude. You are like, okay. Yeah. Now, this is so solid in archaeological evidence that every archaeologist turned right around and said, yep, okay, so this is going in the history books. Yeah, so Gautama Smerdis is the 3rd son of Cyrus because this ancient inscription on his deathbed says so. And it was hidden by Darius, which we have evidence of. Isn't that interesting? So this is really interesting. So one of my favorite little things with the Lighthouse of Pharos, I love this so much. So the architect who built the Lighthouse of Pharos, this is like the 7 world wonders, one of those, that Lighthouse of Pharos. The person who commissioned the lighthouse be built, he wanted his name signed on it, which irked the architect because it's like, dude, I designed it and I'm building it. What the fuck? You just commissioned it. So when he designed it, he put his name at the bottom of the architect design. This was built and designed by, and he signed it. But then, because he's an architect, he built up all the stone around his own signature to hide it. And he put, okay, the king commissioned this, and he put that there. But the cement not the cement, but the concrete that he used to build this thing, he purposely timed it so that it would erode by a certain time period and it would collapse. And then the actual signature would last forever, which is still there to this day. So you can see it. Oh, wow, look at that. He signed it. This is the most clever thing that I've ever seen anyone do. I'm like, oh, yes, that's right. Fine. I'm going to show you. You think you can outside? I'm the brains here. I'm going to sign it. And then I'm going to put look at that. So yeah, that's the kind of shit that people do. So Darius built up around this message that Smerdis built to hide it. And then when it crumbled, we got the message. And it's like, dude, really amazing shit. So we have a shady person. We've got someone who's really fucking unethical. We've got evidence that he's a fucking liar. And now he's got this vengeance kick. Like Darius is filth. Now, this is where things get interesting because in the same year Literally, the moment Darius makes the scene, this is where all the history books change. And I cannot emphasize that enough. This is where all of history starts to get mucky and muddy. Now, I'm going to tell you, the history books aren't muddy. If you go from 500 BCE to present, where Rome is involved, it's bullshit. You can see tampering and it's confusing and it doesn't make sense. It's as contradicting and nonsense as the Bible. You know, when you read the Bible and you're going, this is bullshit and it doesn't make sense and it contradicts itself. People, all of history does that. If you actually read it until the 500 BCE. After 500 BCE, that doesn't happen. Did you know? You know where else it doesn't happen? Ireland and Norway. Scandinavia. Doesn't happen. You know why? Rome wasn't there. Rome didn't make it to the Celts because the Celts are badass. So the Celts and Scandinavian. Now, Scandinavian, have you seen the terrain of Norway? Like, dudes, I can see it now. Oh, we're going to take over the world, says Rome. And they get to Norway. What the fuck is a fjord? I don't know. It's fuck cold up here. And do you see this thing? This is a fjord. The forests grow out of the ocean here. The forests grow out of the ocean into the mountains. They have mountains, forests, oceans in the same place. Who the fuck does that? Norway. So it was, and it's cold. Fuck this shit. And they left. Now in New York State, we like to separate our mountains from our oceans. No, not in Norway. You got ocean, you got mountain, you got forest right here. It's called Trondheim or Oslo or Ersund. It's all in the same space. It's like right there, all the same space. They wanted it all together, integrated at the same time, right there. Why are we separating these? They said, no. Slurty Bart Fast. Thank you, Douglas. Slurty Bart Fast was genius. No, you know what I want, he said. I want ocean, mountain, forest, all in the same place. So I can just sit here and why are you guys choosing? Do you want to live in the ocean or the forest or the mountains? Fuck that shit. I'm going to have all of them at the same place. Welcome to Norway. This is not easily conquerable terrain. Okay. This is not conquer friendly. Okay. That is why all the petty kingdoms of Norway were separated for so long until Harald Bluetooth came along and said, here's a communication system. I love it. I love Norway. I love it so much. So that's why Scandinavia did not have any interference from Rome. It's because, did you see the fuck terrain? It is about as unfriendly conquerable as it can get. Okay. That is not a war zone safety. In fact, really, truly, in fact, where their wars did take place was on the frozen lakes of Lake Vänern in the middle of Sweden in the winter when the ice of the lake froze over. So then they get there on Lake Vänern and they're all having their war. It's called an ice war. And then, well, all the war debris is at the bottom of Lake Vänern, where the archaeologists are going, oh yeah, so they totally had all their wars on the frozen lake, because where the fuck are you going to fight in this kind of terrain? So that is the problem that Rome had when they got to Scandinavia and they said, fuck this shit, we're not going to do anything here because we can't manage the terrain. So there you have it. There you have it. So Scandinavia was saved from Rome's bullshit, which means you have this gorgeous, clean history without any bullshit. It's beautiful. Ireland, well, they're Celts. And we have a long track record of Scots being a little attached to their freedom. Like Scots freedom. You don't fuck with a Scots freedom. It's kind of what we do. You don't fuck with a Scots freedom, okay? You just don't do it. So you got that lovely little thing happening. So Rome couldn't touch it. So when you look at the Celts and you look at Scandinavia, you got two great examples of this is what happens when Rome doesn't fuck around with history. Isn't it clean and nice and beautiful? Thank you, Patrick. So you got all that beautiful stuff happening. And then if you look at all of history before Rome came into existence, literally the archaeological evidence prior to 7th century BCE, 700 to 500 BCE. Basically, if you look at Cyrus the Great and you just go beyond that, oh, it's clean. It's so clean. It's like, wow, remove all the Roman bullshit. And it's a very clean, clear, precise path of history. Look, there's no bullshit. Everyone knows exactly when everyone was conquered. Everyone knows exactly who was lost. And this is the best part. When Cyrus did his one war, okay, he may have had a couple, but he didn't annihilate. Oh no, he left a mess all over the place. So let me show you the difference between how Rome fights and how Cyrus fights. So when you have a crime scene, there's a struggle. There's glass broken all over the room. And then the investigators arrive and they go, wow, someone had a squabble and a fight in here. This is Cyrus's war. This is what it looked like. There's evidence all over. They're sitting there going around with a little trackers with the numbers of 1 evidence, 2 evidence. They're bagging up. They're sitting there taking blood samples. You got all this with Cyrus. Let me tell you what Rome did. Rome would have their fight, and then they'd put on their white gloves, their second pair of white gloves. And then they would go in and they'd say, all right, I want this room completely swept clean. And when we put it back to the way it was, I want you to completely wipe all history, change the books, and make sure it looks like we were here 10,000 years before them. That's right. Not only are we going to make it look like there wasn't a squabble, we're going to make it look like they didn't even exist. Ha ha ha. And I'm just like, dude, you are totally rewriting all of history. That's what we do. And you know why? You know why? And this is why. Because Rome's favorite weapon of choice was story. Their weapon of choice was story. That's fucking dirty. That's dirty. I'll tell you why that's dirty. That's dirty because we all have a weak spot for story. That is like humanity's Achilles heel. It is. It's called humanity's Achilles heel. Okay. And it is. It is our Achilles heel. You tell us a story and we're like, yes. How much money, Google it, do we spend every year on books and movies? Oh yeah, we have a weak spot for story. And I'm sitting here going, so we have an Achilles heel. And this is what Rome did. Oh no, we're going to take over. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to hit them where it hurts. We're going to change the story. And the very first thing they did, those rat bastards, was they changed the Greek language to Roman, which is why they invented Roman names. And then they took the astrological signs and they went, what about the oh, change them all, change them all. What about the Greek? Oh yeah, change them all, change them all. Invent a few, put our own in. I want Julius for July, and I want Augustus for August. And I want Janus, because that doesn't exist. Let's throw Janus in there. Yes. What about Taurus? I don't know. Leave that one. That's fine. I don't know why they did that. I don't understand why they did that. That's like, what about Taurus? Go ahead and leave that one. Yeah, leave Taurus. And I'm sitting here going, Taurus? That's, oh yeah. I had a thing for this. I'm sitting here going, Taurus and I went rounds. First of all, I'm personally invested in Taurus. But I'm sitting here going, how do I explain to a non-archaeologist why Taurus is a red flag? It's an anomaly. Because Taurus doesn't have a Greek or a Roman name to it. It's isolated. You can go through all of it. All of it. It's all there. All the astrological signs. Oh, these are all Roman. Oh, these are all Greek. Oh, and then Taurus. And I'm going, but this is weird. This is weird. Where'd this come from? And then I look at the Minotaur. And now I'm going, that's weird. Yeah, I remember. It was 1992 when I first noticed this anomaly. And I was just like, that's weird. So when things are weird in math, that is a red flag that something is up. Now, many scientists look at an anomaly and they throw them away. Anomalies to me require dissection and investigation because I ask the question, why is there an anomaly? Now, there's two reasons why there's always an anomaly. Okay, three. There are three reasons why there's always an anomaly. The first reason why there isn't always an anomaly is because someone did done fuck up the grouping, which means an anomaly belongs to another group and somebody didn't do their homework. So let's say I want all the red marbles, and then you get purple marbles that pop up. Now, purple contains red. So in the filtration system, you'll get an occasional purple marble. Even though it's not red, it has red in it. So that's why, is because it belongs to a different grouping. So that's one type of an anomaly. The second type of an anomaly is evolution. And I'm going to borrow from Planet of the Apes, Charlton Heston. Look, it's life. And when there is one, there will be another, and then another, and then another. That's evolution, which means if you get one anomaly, you should get another one, and then another, and then a whole lot. So an anomaly is actually the first sign of change, which means you need to be looking for the second change. The third thing is an origin. It's an origin. It's an origin, which means it's a common denominator for something previous. These are the only reasons why you have anomalies. There is no other reason. If you have an anomaly, this is it. I am huge on, can we get all the FBI agents to please take all of their anomalies of all their serial killers, put them together, and then look for new groupings? Please do that. Please do that. Like FBI agents, hello. Could you please get all of your anomalies, put them together, and look at all the groupings? Try and come up with common denominators, please, of all of the anomalies that come up in all of your statistics when you are looking at serial killers, because you're going to find more. Like, why haven't they thought of this? So just saying. So you have to look at your grouping. You have to look and ask the question, is Mother Nature evolving the next stage? And if so, you really need to be tracking that. And the next one is this an origin? So when I looked at Taurus and Minotaur, and I noticed that it wasn't evolving that way, I went, well, it must have evolved that way. So this is all sequence. Now we're getting deep, deep into the world of logic. This is like stage 4 of logical studies. This is where it gets deep. So basically you have forward, which means evolution, or it's backwards, which means we're going back to the origin, or you are completely ignorant to another sequence that's happening that's parallel. So the sequence is either parallel or you are looking forward or backward. Now, because Taurus did not continue, I went, well, it's definitely not going forward. So this is not a new line of evolution, which means I have to go back. So I looked back from Taurus to Minotaur, which brought me to, well, Menelaus and the Minoan. And the Minoan led me to Mesopotamia. And then we have something called the Taurus Mountains. It's getting warmer. And the Taurus Mountains feed two tributaries called the Tigris River. You see where I'm going with this. And the Euphrates River, which leads me to Uruk, or I like that one. And now I'm going, oh, look at that. It's the Fertile Crescent in the cradle of civilization. Taurus goes all the way back to that. Now, that dates it to 4000 BCE. But Rome was, well, let's say 500 BCE and on. So now I'm going, that's a whole lot of history that Rome's not a part of. So what the fuck is Taurus? Let's take a look at the ancient Greek civilization. The ancient Greek civilization starts around the 2000 BCE-ish. I really don't agree with that date, but that's what said. I really don't agree with that date, but let's go with it. I really don't agree with that date. I have my own opinion, which is actually a logical deduction. I don't do opinions. I have a logical deduction. So I'm looking at it going, I'm going to do some more research. I'm going to close that. I'm just going to ask some questions and I'm going to investigate that a little bit more. But now I'm looking at this going, that's all fishy. So what the fuck was before? Now I love looking at Egyptian because Egyptian is what we call an anomaly, which means it's its own grouping. Now we got 3 origins. Oh, I am ahead of myself. Irish myth. So I'm going, all right, 2 groupings. So now we've got the Taurus Mountains, the Mesopotamia, Minoans, to Taurus. Clearly they had some astrological shit happening because they're going, look, Taurus. And I'm sitting here looking now at the Egyptian culture, which is around 3000 BCE, 2000 BCE. And I'm going, oh, look at this, a lot of shit's happening. Now, this does not, this is where it gets really interesting because it's definitely parallel. And I'm not seeing crossover yet. So far, it looks like the 2 civilizations were separate-ish with some influence. But here's the thing. No matter how big Rome got, it took them a long time before they finally decided to wipe out Egypt. And even then, they didn't. But they did. Alexandria. But it was like, oh, things were heated. And I'm going, whoa, dudes. So there's a whole lot of war happening between, so you got Persia, you've got Egypt, and you've got Darius and Rome. And I'm just looking at this whole Darius-Rome cocktail going, I really need to look up where Darius came from. I'm going to do that now. Where did Darius come from? Darius was born. Where did he come from? Reign. Pasargadae. To the northeast of the modern city of Shiraz. Pasargadae was the capital of the Achaemenid Empire under Cyrus the Great. Today it is an archaeological site located just north of the town of Madar-i-Solomon. Solomon. What the fuck? Soleyman. Solomon. Madar-i-Solomon. That's a red flag. Is a city in the capital of Pasargad district of Fars province, Iran. It also serves as the administrative center. Let's go back to, where's the history? There's no history. How can there be no history? Okay, I'm going to have to get off Wiki and dig. What the fuck? All right, where am I going now? To the northeast of this region is the ancient capital of King Cyrus, Pasargadae, locally called. Is that what it was called back then? I ran into this with Norway, so I am not new to that. Madar-i-Solomon means mother of Solomon. That is what I was feeling when I saw that word. I went, that looked like Solomon. This is the most evidence I have seen on Solomon's existence. Now, here's the question that I have. Did they call it Madar-i-Solomon then, or are they calling it now? Oh, I have so many questions and I'm very excited, but I need to stay focused. Solomon after a Muslim shrine. When? Okay, now I'm on another website. Oh, I'm so excited. I love new data. Naksh-i-Rustum lies in the heartland of ancient Persia. To the northeast of this region is the ancient capital of King Cyrus, Pasargadae, locally called Madar-e-Solomon, after a Muslim shrine. Well, Muslim, So that's going to place it around 7th century CE. So that's after the fact. Pasagaday is located in the Dashta-i Morgab, meaning the plain of Morgab. The Dasht is an alluvial valley plain of the river Morgab and is located just south of Hyderabad. Now, Morgab is Irish. The river Morgab, oh, that's got Irish written all over it. This is normal. There are a lot of linguistical, if you look at the Old Irish and Persian, the words are very similar. Like the word shin and the word shinshar, like there's, oh yeah, Danu, yeah. There's shit going on. Yeah, this is what I call the river Morgab, south of Kadabra. You may be interested to note that the river of Morgab or Murgab is a name shared with a river and town east of Tajikistan, Pamir region. To the south of Naxos Rustam lies the later Achaemenian capital of Persepolis. Now, this is interesting because Persepolis, Perseus, by the way, that's where we get Persia from, Perseus. So I'm sitting here going, and this is a chicken or hen thing, where I keep looking at this going, Perseus, Persia. This is really fucking interesting. So now I'm looking at the etymology of Perseus, and so we even have Persepolis. And I'm looking at this, okay, polis is Greek. So now, and this is where I'm looking at it going, Greek and Persia are doing this mating dance. When the Achaemenid king Darius the Great decided to have his tomb carved into the side of the hill. Did you get that? I'm going to have my tomb here, please. I want it there. Make sure you tell everyone how great I am. I want the epitaph. Like, dude, fuck, you are. Decided to have his tomb carved into the side of the hill. The site had already been used by the Elamites, presumably Elamite royalty. While Darius's tomb had supported inscriptions, the other tombs do not have any inscriptions. Yeah, of course. There is another set of Sasanian reliefs at Naxos Rajab, a site located 2 kilometers south across the Marv Dasht Valley Plain. Well, this is a beautiful website. This gives me documentation. I can look at it. It's just here, hardcore fact. Here you go. This is the data we've got. Oh, this is beautiful. They give me graphs. No one wrote over it in crayon, which is common. View of the tombs, views of the tombs. Oh, this is beautiful. They got the traditional hats. There's the snake. Crowned head remnant, high priest Qadir. Elamites. I need to study the Elamites. Why is that name sticking with me? All right, so the whole concept of this, the mother of Solomon, that came after, so that's not valid. That's again hey, let's just slap our name on this and claim it. Oh, yeah. Nomenclature: English, Persian, Modern Persian, Parsi, Old Persian, Parsa, Greek, Parsi, Old Iranian, Parsava, Assyrian, Akkadian, Persuasia, or Persumash. English, Persian, Modern Persian, Pars, Old Persian, Parsa, Greek, Persica, and Persis, Assyrian, Akkadian, Parsua. I love the way words move. The way a word moves is you have a prefix, and then all these color, and that's the origin of every word. You have the origin of the word. Like Perseus, let's go per, P-E-R. Sometimes it'll go, nope, let's take out the E, let's put the A. No, let's add the C-S-U over here, let's put that over here. And then you see all these cultures, and every now and then one will go here, and then it'll go here. This is a 3rd generational word, but the par never stays. The origin always stays the same. So with words, you can see it. You can see who does what to what word, where, and when. How they change and evolve the origin tells you what culture it is. This is how you do linguistics. Everyone has their own thumbprint. Every culture has its own thumbprint. So you can look at it and go, oh, so this is what they do with words. It's the psychology of word building. And every culture leaves its mark. So you can see precisely what every culture does with words when you give them words. So if I give you a word, I know exactly what you're going to do with it, depending upon your region and your culture. And we do this with our words. We do this with everything. For instance, if you give an entire sentence to someone from Jersey, they're going to cut it in half and only speak half of the word because they want to save a couple minutes. So when you give someone a word, how they save time, what they value with the word, how they treat the word, speaks volumes of the culture. The French, the French preserve their language. The French appreciate. The French know how to appreciate. You want to know how to be grateful and appreciate and savor? Go to France. They will teach you how to appreciate. So they appreciate every word they speak. And it shows in their language. My God, does it. The Irish appreciate music, which is why their music, their language, sounds like music. Everything they do, it's a celebration around music. The Irish have figured out how to live. So if you want to know how to live, watch the Irish. If you really want to know how to appreciate and savor and celebrate, combine it with the French and the Irish. You got it. Oh, it's great. This is the part of culture that I see that I'm like, you guys are missing it. This is beautiful. This is what we need to be teaching. Every one of us has something that we savor, and it's all about how we handle our words. It's all about how we handle our words. New Yorker. So we chop our words up, we cut them in half because we're gotta go. Which I think is why I love to step into an Irish bar here. It's because time stops and you just get to enjoy and savor, which is probably why Irish bars are so popular in New York City. It's because as soon as you walk into an Irish bar, the world stops. The world stops. It really does. So when you look at what a culture does to a word, you can immediately learn its pattern. All you need is like 4 data points and you got a pattern. And then you start looking for consistencies. So then after a while, you get to look at the psychological pattern behavior of mathematics to see how they keep changing the words. This is how you get to see how words evolve in the written language and in the oral language. So that when someone comes along and says, oh yeah, this is this language, that's bullshit. No, it's not. It's not following the mathematical pattern. You got to study truth, people. You got to study the science of truth. So that when someone comes along and tells you X, you can look at it and say, yeah, that's bullshit because it's violating the laws of nature, which is the mathematical pattern, which is the mathematical law of pattern. You guys don't know it. No one does. It's a mathematical law of pattern. And when you know the mathematical law of pattern, which is buried in logic, part 4, which no one studies, you get to see truth. That's what it's called. I'm going to call it the mathematical law of pattern because that's what it is. It's the mathematical law of pattern. That if you have 4 data points and they are all the same, you get to use frequency with that pattern to see how everything moves. It's the same fucking pattern. It's in everything. So when you look at the mathematical law of pattern, which is truth, and you weigh that in with the frequency, you're solid. Now you can tell every liar through all of history everywhere, and you can apply it to everything. It's a very simple question. Does it follow the mathematical law of pattern? And if it doesn't, it's a lie. And if it does, it's truth. There it is. So words follow the mathematical law of pattern up until 2000 to 2010. When it changed. Now, I'm a writer, so I was writing back in 1988. I was writing in 2006, and I'm sitting here writing books, and I'm sitting here looking up words. And it suddenly got to a point, and I'm like, the words are changing. The words are changing drastically. This is not following the mathematical law of pattern anymore. What the fuck is going on? The internet happened. You want to know what happened to the world when the internet came? It completely fucked up all of our language because liars got on the internet and said shit like, well, words evolve. Dipshit. No, they don't, because of the mathematical law of pattern. No, they don't. And if you don't know about the mathematical law of pattern, then you're not qualified to make that kind of a decision. Bottom line. And that is how you handle any liar to this day. If someone says something that's bullshit, ask them, do you know about the mathematical law of pattern? And if they go, no, well, then you're not qualified to tell me what you think is true or not because you don't know the mathematical law of pattern. That's the argument. The mathematical law of pattern, and this is the beautiful thing. When you learn the mathematical law of pattern and a narcissist decides to use that on you, you can say, I'm going to look it up. And you can look it up and it's going to take you to my websites. And I'm going to give you the formula for the mathematical law of pattern. And then you're going to be able to go, oh, now I know if you're lying. Which means if a narcissist gives you the mathematical law of pattern, they will be giving you the formula to determine if they're telling you the truth, which means no narcissist will ever tell you if you have the mathematical law of pattern. Because they'll be handing you literally the weapon that shows who they are. So the mathematical law of pattern is 4. Go with 4. I'm just going to put it here. 4 identical behaviors that are the same with the frequency. How often does it occur? And then you want to look at how it changes. You want to look at the rate of change. And there it is, the rate of change. 4 pattern frequencies, the frequencies in which these patterns occur, and then the rate of change. Now you've got the mathematical law of pattern. Everything follows that pattern. Everything. Everything. But you have to look at behavior. Only behavior. But narcissists use words. So when you look at how words evolve with the mathematical law of pattern and who does what, how it changes. For instance, the letter D. In the Persian culture, ancient Persian culture, they add D in front of a word to signify deity. So now you've got words with and without a D. So how they change a word is with a D, no D, D, no D, D, no D. So you start to see the D come up and not down. So now you get to sort it. Now you got grouping. Oh, okay, look at that. This word has a D, this one doesn't. What does the D mean? This is called a dingar, by the way. Now, if you have a culture like Ireland that's hanging around in this region, you see the word Anu. Now you have a goddess named Danu. Same name, exactly the same name. But in Ireland, it's just Danu, whereas in Persia, it's Anu with a D. How do you distinguish the two then? How do you distinguish the two? And they don't have the knowledge of the Dingar, so they just have Danu. Now you have the Danu River. It's really fascinating how you see how it moves, and you can see how it moves. And then you have Anubis. Now you have Anubis. So now they've taken Anu and they've tagged on Anubis to it. Now you have the god Anubis. Now you've got Nub, N-U-B, which you see all over the place. So you can see how all the different, now you have B-I-S. So let's take Anubis. So you have Anu, so Anu, Danu, Anu, Anubis. So now B-I-S is how the Egyptians change words. So you can see how B-I-S or I-S is attached to every word. So now you have I-S. Let's take Horus. See what they've done? They also have E-T, Bastet. So now you have Bast and Et. Hemotep. Well, there's another one, EEP. So you see IS and you have ET. So now you get to see how the words evolve and change and how they keep moving these E's and how they use prefix and suffix. So as they interchange prefix and suffix is telling you what culture you're looking at. Now, how they then translate that over into symbols, which is just mathematics. It's just numbers. Except in this case, they're using pictures, which is what 1, 2, 3 is. They're just pictures. It's the same thing. So now when you start to align that, you get to see how it evolves. It doesn't evolve, how it literally interchanged like Legos. It's interchangeable. It's called a compound. Compound words. It's compounding. That's not evolution. It's a compound. So then when you go over into ancient Greek and you can see their alphabet, the alphabet does the same thing. You have the certain, and it's amazing because all alphabets start off with just one symbol, and then it expands and it changes and it grows from that one symbol. But the symbol stays the same. It's the origin. So if you look at Futhark is beautiful. Futhark is a gorgeous example of this because there's no Roman contamination. So you have elder Futhark and then you have younger Futhark. You're going to look at these things and you're going to go, oh my God, it's dwarven runes. Yes, it's those. So you can see how they evolve and change, and you can see what was dropped, which was added, and which was altered. Same thing with Ogham runes. Oh, good God, Ogham runes. So you can see how they were altered and shaped. And then when you go over to cuneiform, same thing, how it was all altered and shaped. So that by the time you get over to the Greek alphabet, you could see how it was altered and shaped. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. It's literally watching how it just kept building and growing and shifting. Now, likewise, I have in my courses this one section where you get to hear English being spoken from the 10th century and 8th century BCE all the way up to modern era. And it's around the 1500s that it starts to sound like English. And then it changes again. I really got to stay safe. I hate that because it's parroting what everybody else says. It then alters and moves into the next thing and then moves into the next thing. And it just keeps shifting. And it holds the origin. And that says it right here. You have to hold the origin. And this is why the philosophers of ancient Greek believed that etymology was the root of all language, as do I. Is because etymology shows you the origin word so that you can always track the point of origin as the word takes on a life of its own. But without the etymology, which is the point of origin, you don't know where the word is going. You need relativity, which is what the etymology of the word always gives you, which is why I say, look up the etymology and the word of the day, and that integrated will give you the actual meaning. Now, this is where things got really interesting. What I noticed was that the words of a narcissist were very, very select. And then I was able to weed out all the narcissist words, and there's 3 groups, and this is the narcissist language. They have their own language. There's 3 narcissist word groupings. There's their emotion power words. These are the words that you are not allowed to use. If you use these words, you will grow. So these are their banned grow words. Then they have another group of words, which is their shrink words. These are the words that will shrink you. These are the words that they use constantly to remind you what you are. This word right here, these are the contaminated words. These are the words that were literally reversed 180 degrees from their original meaning. We see this 3 times in history. We see this around 2000 to 2010 CE. We see this in the 15 and 1600s. Shit went down in the 1500s. And we see this again in the 4th century CE. 3 very distinct time periods where you see precisely when people started to alter words and change exactly what words mean, and then the after effect of what that caused. Now, the ancient Romans believed very, very hardcore that words, especially ancient Greek, contained prophetic power. So they banned the word, the entire language, to remove the prophetic power that they believed was inside ancient Greek, which was based off of ancient Armenian or Persian. Which is why so many ancient Greek words are actually derived from ancient Persian words, like philosophy. The thing is, because of anomalies, that evolution of anomaly of 1 sign, then 2, then 3, it is the number 1 sign that somebody has tampered with shit. So that if it's suddenly in existence, that's a red flag, because that's not how Mother Nature works. She works with anomaly and then another anomaly, and then it becomes a common practice. And when you're sitting here looking at sociology over the expanse of like thousands of years, you see this over and over again. Mother Nature goes, here's one, and people go, whoa, what is this? It's an anomaly. And then about X amount of time later, that's your rate, it happens again. People go, whoa, there's another one that's fascinating. What is this again? Look at that. And then they collect them. And then it waits, and then it pops up again. Whoa, okay, now we got data. We got data. Bring in the scientists. And then the scientists come in, and then they start comparing the three of them. 4 data shows up. Okay, oh, it's official now, guys. We are looking at evolution. Evolution is starting to happen. We've got a pattern, people. We've got a pattern. We've got evolution. If you don't see this happening, somebody's lying. Nothing just shows up. Man-made shit just shows up. This is a liar. So this is fascinating. Where now I'm looking at it going, so you're just going to tell me that 2 religions just popped out of fuck nowhere? Because that's what it is. That is it exactly. 2 religions just popped out of fuck nowhere. 2 religions just popped out of fuck nowhere. There's no evolution of them. Really interesting. The Roman Empire, Darius, popped out of fuck nowhere. So now I'm looking at this going, I know a liar when I see a liar because I have the mathematical law of pattern. Rome built the fucking matrix. We are in a Roman matrix. It's Roman. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Thank you so much. May the kindest of words always find you.